have words. I literally have no words.
But right now, this entire contract proves, and the contracts that Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin have signed from day one have proved they're out of touch with what reality is with the Vancouver Canucks. We are a bottom 10 team that are acting like we're a top 5 team. What I don't like,
you can't you literally can't trade everyone. That's such a stupid concept that
to me,
so many fans are like, oh, we have to trade everybody. Trade the coach.
So 3 minutes ago, you rewind maybe, this team's not good enough. How do you fix this team then if you're going to keep re-signing these core players?
Well, there never is. You and I have discussed this so many times. The CFL is their own worst enemy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for the February 9th edition of the HSP, the Hughes Sports Podcast. Now, you may be looking at me and being like, wow, Jake's really big on the screen right now. And that's true, because normally I am hosting next to my old man. However, he had obligations that he could not swap out because apparently they're more important than the podcast. So today I have brought with me a gentleman named DJ and Cam, who are lifelong Canucks and or Lions fans, and we're going to have a chitty chat about the news over the last week because, you know, there's nothing ever exciting going on in the Vancouver Canucks world. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. It's been it's a joy and a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'm quite excited to see what we can talk about today.
Yeah, I'm doing great here as well. I appreciate you having me on, and excited to be here. Longtime listener, every episode so far. And
I appreciate that very much.
The old man couldn't make it, so he had to have 2 people to fill his shoes. So
yeah, he's a very boisterous, very loud human being. So I need to make sure that we had you guys. I had at least 2 people on to change it. Sorry, I'm in the middle of trying to figure something out and I can't. Just for everyone who is watching, below me is Cam. Cam, say hello.
Hello.
Across from me is DJ. DJ, say
hello.
Perfect. Now you guys know sort of their voices. You can chat with us. If you are watching live, please do drop a comment in. We will get to your guys' comments as we can going through the show today. Big thing, if you are watching or listening, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Please leave a comment. Anything really helps. It seems silly, but the Google algorithm, Apple, they all love it when we get those thumbs ups and the stars and tell us what we're doing wrong. We also recently just launched. This has been in the works for a little while. Where did I see it? I had it here. No, I don't have it. Oh, there it is. HughesSports.ca. So every week I will be posting a Jake's take on everything I see and just commenting on things. The old man will release his old man's weekly wisdom of the week or weekly wisdom, one of the two every week as well, where he'll rant and rave about being crazy old guys. So please do check that site out. I'll post a link with the video or the podcast if you guys are listening. First things first, we did a Twitter poll this week. When did I post that? February 5th. So 4 days ago. I'm going to pose the Twitter question exactly how I did to the fans so we can discuss. Sounds like Bo Horvat signed a long-term deal with the New York Islanders. 8x8 is what I'm hearing. We now know it's actually 8.5x8. So Canucks fans, would you prefer Bo Horvat or JT Miller for 8x8 starting next year? The options I gave were Bo Horvat, JT Miller, or neither for that price. DJ, let's start with you on this one.
I honestly, Bo Horvat's the captain of the team. I would have, if I could have just Bo or JT and have traded the other one, I would have gone with Bo Horvat. I would have taken him. He plays center. He actively plays center. JT Miller has moved to the wing very often, and that's where he's played his best hockey. It's really easy to play really good hockey beside somebody like Elias Pettersson, which is where he spent a lot of his time. And I know there's a lot of issues with JT Miller's attitude, which some good, some bad, some I agree with, some I don't. I don't think it's necessarily bad that he gets angry. I don't think it's necessarily bad when he's yelling bombs when he's coming off the ice. And I mean, you just have to go back and you look at a few years ago, Nathan McKinnon was screaming at Jared Bednar, telling him to do his job. That's all he has to do is do his job. And that seems to work out for them. So I don't think those outbursts from time to time are the main difference maker, but I think Bo Horvat kind of brought a calm and presence to the team. So if I had to pick one, Bo.
Fair. And Cam?
I would agree. Same sort of thing. Being a captain of the team, being the leader of the team. I vividly remember when they traded him that when we drafted him, like when the trade was announced, it was like when we drafted him, I remember them saying he will be the next Canucks captain. Like it was pretty much written in stone that he was the leader of the team. He was going to be a guy who put the franchise on his back. And I'm not going to lie, like in those playoff series that he was scoring big goals, like against St. Louis, where he's scoring those breakaway goals to give us like the advantage, or just in games in general, just the face-off dot. Like I just remember with Malhotra here, he turned into such a face-off like god, and like he is one of the best face-off men in the league. And being a center, which I know a lot of people say, well, it's easier to maybe find a lot of centers or whatnot, but he was just a good center and a good leader of the team. And just the one caveat though is I do kind of agree, not for that much. Like, yes, this is a career year, and I know the management probably was looking at getting him a very reasonable deal, and he's kind of like, nah, hold my beer. I'm going to show you what I'm really worth. And he went out and proved it. But the problem is they'd already made their bed with Miller, which I remember when we signed him, I wasn't super excited for the money and term, but I knew he was a core part of the team, and it's disappointing to have to let our captain go in order to fulfill that and keep him around.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with either of you. I do find JT Miller does have that competitive edge.
Yes.
That he might be able, if given the leadership opportunity, with now there being a giant hole from Bo Horvat, because like you said, Cam, he was groomed by the Sedins basically as soon as he started there to be the next captain. I do believe JT Miller has that presence that can, and with Rick Tocchet being the coach, a very similar player to JT Miller, fiery, never say die, but occasionally, snapping sticks on the bench. Maybe Bednar can, or not Bednar. Wow. Tocchet can bring it out of JT Miller. So the poll on Twitter, who do you think won? I know, Deej, you already said you looked at it. Cam, who do you think won that poll?
Won the trade, you mean?
No. So who do you think, which option do you think won the poll?
Oh, of those three options? Ooh,
yeah.
I'd say Bo, so. Wow.
It was a tie. We only had, we had 26 votes on it.
Okay.
It was a tie at 42.3% for JT Miller, and neither for that price. Bo only got 15.4% of the vote, which is kind of shocking to me, because I thought there would be more Canucks fans reading on Twitter, but it might also be a lot more just hockey fans, people who don't have the connection to Bo that the Canucks do.
And I could see for 8.5 for 8, I could see that being a big deterrent for any like non-Canucks fan to see that, like, ooh, Bo's not worth that, which fair enough.
Well, and big thing right now is that there's no cap certainty for next year. There's all sorts of rumors. There's all sorts of innuendo and talk, but we don't know what the cap looks like next year. The PA just hired a gentleman. They poached him from the Biden administration, which is kind of shocking. But he is the new executive for the PA, and it'll be interesting to see if he pushes to get more money in the cap. I mean, the explosion of revenue since COVID, I think should be almost paid back to the league based off of very smart people, because I'm not that smart to figure out the arbitration payments and everything like that. But in an ideal world, the cap goes up only $2 million. In a non-ideal world, in a world where the cap only goes up by $2 million, yeah, okay, that 8.5 is a big contract to steal. But if the cap goes up $10 million, right? I mean, it's expected to go up to $10 million over the next 3 to 5 years.
It's expected a total of $10 million
A total of $10
over the
million.
4 years.
Right now, what is the cap? Does anyone have that number?
The cap is 81. No, that was a couple of years ago.
82.5.
82.5. Yeah.
82,500,000. So if you're looking at a contract that in 3 years with 5 years left on the contract at 31 for Bo Horvat, that's less than 10% of your cap.
Yeah, very true.
That's what math is hard for me right now.
What, 8.5 to
8? Yeah,
to 93? You mean roughly?
yeah, 9. Yeah, 9. About 9% of your cap.
Yeah, 9%. Sure.
For someone who can play center and is very, very good at it, has been for years. Showed over the last few years that he can score, and the very limited playoff experience he has, especially in the bubble, proved he can score. He can do it. So is that an okay contract? Is that a contract we look back at in 3 years, 4 years when the cap's gone up that, hey, look, they did a really good job on the islands, right? Like Lou Lamoriello knocked it out of the park. So it's very early to tell, especially with these types of contracts.
The pick is where everything changes for that draft, for the trade.
Exactly. And
they are relatively.
I want to know what you. Oh, go ahead, Deej.
I was going to say the Islanders are relatively an old team too, though, so they have a lot of contracts aging out, which is both good and bad in this circumstance, because when you look at a team like the Islanders and this contract for Bo, they're going to be paying him 8.5 coming up, and he's going to be making that for his 34, 35, 36-year-old season. Yeah. But a lot of those other guys that are currently signed are going to be gone, so they won't have Anders Lee at that point. And if they do, it's for a lot less than the $7 million he's making. They're not going to have like Matt Martin. I know he's only 1.5, but like they got a lot of really old players on that team.
Is Brock Nelson a little bit older too?
Brock Nelson is 31 as opposed to Bo's 30.
Okay. I didn't realize he was much younger. Yeah.
What about Barzal? How similar are Barzal? Because I think Barzal's a couple years younger than Bo.
Yeah. Barzal is 25 years old.
Yeah.
And so he's 2 years younger than Bo, and he's making 9.15. So it's 600.
So much money.
But this is the thing, though. Like,
on an 8-year contract starting next year.
Right.
So Barzal and Bo will be together.
And that's the thing. They've been looking for a running mate with Barzal for years. Like they can't find anyone to catch up with him. Like I know a lot of people are like, Barzal's a bust. Why are they paying him so much money? It's because the man drives the play for the Islanders. I'm not even an Islanders fan. I've seen and heard like he's basically the offense for them. So they needed to keep him around, and he just has no one to like keep up with him. Like if he makes a break out of the zone, like he's just so fast, but no one is really with him. So he's in the offensive zone kind of by himself. So if Bo can kind of keep up with him, like they might have a little, even though they both play center, like on a power play or something, the two of them kind of working together might be a thing.
Even though they both play center, they've been playing together the first 2 games, and
Yeah.
including the third game here with against the Canucks. That's going on right now. At the end of the second, it is 4-2 or 4-3 for the Islanders.
Oh,
including a goal for Bo Horvat, which. Good for him.
Assisted by none other than Barzal, actually.
Who also
Barzal breaking down the wing and passing back to Horvat. So
there you go.
No,
I think we're talking about.
I think the biggest thing for these guys right now is to build chemistry with each other for Barzal and Horvat. And honestly, like it sucks to see Bo Horvat go. I hope, and it's going to suck for our draft pick that we get or potentially could get from the Islanders. I hope they go on a run.
Yeah,
I'd love for Bo to go. Turn this team, because this team, they weren't scoring like at all. The Islanders weren't scoring, and now, I mean, they've scored 2 goals a game, at least 2 goals a game since Bo has been back.
Exactly.
So, or since Bo moved there. So, speaking of that trade, we posted a poll on Facebook quite a while ago, January 31st. It was just after the Bo Horvat trade. And how are you feeling about it? Options I gave were we won the trade, we lost the trade, and too early to tell. I think we've already kind of discussed our feelings on this. What do you think won the poll? DJ, did you see this one?
No, I did not.
All right, DJ, let's see which one you think won the poll.
I think the poll is probably we won the trade.
And Cam, what are you thinking?
I think the Islanders won the trade, but that's because I'm a Bo fan.
So neither of you are correct with what won. The too early to tell is what won by a landslide. I don't know how many votes. 15 votes. 86% said it's too early to tell. And I mean, Cam, you mentioned it. The biggest part that's a question mark is the draft pick. What is that draft pick going to be?
Yeah.
Because there's all sorts of interesting things that could happen with that pick.
Well, it's not even just what is it going to be, where is it, and then who do we decide to pick? Because for years we've heard about how the Canucks scouts, which we've lost a few good ones over the years, always fight with management on who's the right player, and it sucks to hear that when the scouts are picking, sometimes they pick some really good players, a la Pedersen, but we are so hit and miss on our cabinet of draft picks and potential players. It's scary to know that could be a really good pick that we just don't pick well. So frightening. Always frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fun with draft picks, though. I mean, especially this, if we get it with this draft.
Fun with draft picks.
We don't have, the big thing is Canucks fans can breathe. We don't have Benning. We don't have a general manager who's going to lock into a player because he had a very good World Juniors. Stick with that guy. Ulevy. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Ulevy could have been a great player.
Could have been.
He shouldn't have been drafted where he was drafted.
No.
I think if you redo that draft, I think he falls to the third or fourth rounds.
Yeah. And I hope the kid can actually develop and be like a serviceable player in the NHL. No knocks
even
against him.
AHL.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, just waiting for something. I'm not gonna lie, as a Canucks fan for so many years, I feel, it's really hard to say, the passing of Luc Bourdon. Ever since then, we have not been good at draft picks. And he, I think, would have been that keystone defenseman that we would have had, a big, strong body. And since that happened, and he did, in the few games he played, you're oh, you saw we had something special. And since then, I don't know, just things have just flipped for whatever reason. We haven't been getting good draft picks for the most part. Again, we have developed some really good players.
Yeah. Hughes.
Even
Demko.
Besser.
Yeah. See, that's my problem with Besser.
Okay.
Is did we move Besser up to the main roster, up to what I would call the main roster, up to the Canucks too early? Did he need more time to marinate? Sure, he came in flying his first year. I'm going to look up his stats, but he came in fantastic. And what has he done since, right? That first year, 26-17, 9 games played only, 5 points. Not too bad. 4 of those were goals.
Which is what we need, always.
Yeah. 17-18, played 62 games, 29 goals, 26 assists.
To be fair, I still think Brock Besser would have won Rookie of the Year that year. I think he would have won the Calder. And then the only reason he didn't is, you said 62 games. He missed out the last, I think it was the last 20. I don't think he missed any before. Maybe he missed 1 or 2, and it was an 18-game injury. But he got checked by, I want to say it was Matt Dumba, but I could be way off on that. But he got checked by somebody into the gate as it was open, and he hurt his back. And he missed the rest of the year. He ended the year with 29 goals. And I think if he had hit 35... 40, he would have won Calder. And then at that point, it's it's hard to say, hey, this guy who won Rookie of the Year, we brought him up too early. But at the same time, I don't know if it's just injuries after injury after injury, or if it's just something else. Maybe he would have been he could have just been better the following year if they just let him play another year with the AHL team. But there's definitely something to be said about he did have a great rookie year, but I don't remember who he played with that year, and that's also a huge part of it.
Well, yeah, I
Well,
mean
health
that's
health has been his big problem. Like
yeah.
as skilled and as talented as he's been, like you can tell even in some games where he comes back from injury, he's like laboring or he's not as strong as he could be. And like I'm not gonna lie, hearing all this stuff about the medical staff with the Canucks, it's like, are they rushing him back before he's fully healthy? And like having
Mhm.
worked in junior hockey in those situations, players definitely want to like get back in the game, and it's part of the duty as the medical staff to make sure they're okay. Like my big thing was concussions. Like guys would try to cheat the system, and like I learned a lot of tricks on how to like really cheat them or like check them for like how good they are, because there are a lot of ways to do it, but are they really diligent? And especially at the pros, being a junior like trainer, it was different because those are younger guys. You have a little bit more authority, whereas like in the pros, they're making millions of dollars. There's a GM that's pressuring you. There's a coach that's pressuring you. I need my best guy. So
But
you wonder.
but isn't that
Yeah.
what the medical staff should be doing? Is pushing back to those guys and being like, look, we can have him come back, but he's not 100%.
But the thing is, though, they probably do, and then the GM or coach just says, "I don't care. I need him now." It's like, is he good? I'd rather have him at 50 or like 50% than us waiting another 2 or 3 weeks when we're in a playoff run to get him back to 80 or 90. And it's like, and the player always wants to go back, and then that says something else. If the player doesn't, then it's kind of like, are they really hurt? Do they really care? Do they want to be here? Like, there's so many other team dynamics that go along with that. So, like, as the medical staff, it's always you kind of are just of an advisor. Like you really are a very informed advisor. And at the end of the day, the player makes the decision and the coach and the management make the ultimate decisions as to let him go. But as like a trainer, you definitely could be like, I fully believe this guy should not be playing. He is at a bigger risk to be done for longer or get more hurt or not even be worth the money you're paying him, kind of thing. And if that were to happen, it's kind of like that. The other thing is like I knew the Canucks trainer Bernstein for so many years, and he had a bit of like gravitas to him. Like he, even though he was a super nice dude, like you knew that if he said something, people would listen. And since
Yeah.
he's left, I don't know if like the players trust the same trainer, or they say like, okay, this guy has made too many mistakes. Whereas like, sure, if Bernstein made a mistake or two, he had a long list of like being right like most of the time. But like, you can't be perfect, right? Because
No.
guys will hide things, they'll change your diagnosis. So it's one of those things where maybe the new staff it doesn't have that sort of like trust that the players need to have, and it's kind of affected them since then.
Fair. Going back to Brock Besser a little bit here. He's yet to play a full season. He's yet to play 82
Yeah.
games
Right.
in a full season. And talking about the injury issues, I mean, we know Quinn Hughes talked about Pearson's what should have been a 4-week injury is now he's out for the season. He got his injury back in December. Was it in November or December?
November. I want to say
November. He was supposed to be back in like early New Year. And he's now out for the season. He's had to have multiple surgeries.
But this is like misdiagnosed from like a year or two ago, right? As well.
Exactly.
Like this isn't like a current thing. So
yeah, it's something
so
that's been
sad.
bugging him. And then they he got a surgery, and now all reports, Rick Dollywall on Sakaris and Price mentioned that he saw him with I can't remember what they called it, but basically it's an IV that he walks around with that's connected to a pump that's pumping IV antibiotics.
Shit.
Oh my, like that's
So
I feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't get me wrong, I understand medical team might have screwed up diagnosing it and it got worse, and that's why they had to do surgery.
Sure.
But how much you want to bet? Like, we all know these guys are super competitive. Like,
Oh yeah.
what is it? 0.05% of all hockey players in Canada, in the world, make it to the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Even less of that have a career as long as Tanner Pearson is. Even though I'm not a huge fan of him, he's an NHLer through and through.
Oh, he has the talent for sure. Yeah.
Did he try to push himself to come back too early? Did he start sweating? Like, you know what I mean? It's so easy for the talent, the skaters, to be like, well, no, I can't just be sitting around. I need to be doing something. As soon as you start sweating in that, it gets infected.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to kind of like, it feels fine right now, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the case. He didn't break his hand, but let's look at just a very simple case of like, you break your hand, you know it's broken. Like you can feel it. You cast it, you move on. When it comes out of the cast, it probably takes a couple days to start to feel normal. But as soon as it feels normal, like you want to be out there, you want to be holding that stick, you want to be taking those shots, you want to be like doing whatever. But all it takes, if you don't actually give it the full time, all it takes is one player coming up and stick tapping you. Honestly, like your stick handling, the hand comes up, it hits your hand, and now it's like it's bad again. But you feel good. But even though the medical staff is like, you need to sit for another week, man. Like,
Well, the other thing is like this is like if it was an injury from let's say a couple of years ago where like the team was still like really close and it's like you want to be helping the boys. You want to be helping the team. You don't want to be sitting out. You want to be like helping the success and like sitting on the sideline is kind of like itching at you, so you definitely want to get back in. It could be a combination of that or like you go through a lot of different tests like showing that you can stick handle, but maybe like all of it's painful, but you're sitting there, I can do it, but like it's like a 6 or a 7 on the pain scale, but you're like, just give me like Tylenol, just give me the cocktail or give me the shot, whatever it is, and I can get through the games. But like
yeah,
secretly it is kind of festering or it is still open or broken or whatever it is. Because like yeah, blood flow, once you get the blood moving, it technically is supposed to help. But if it's like as you say, like whether it's like a broken open wound or like a broken bone, it's like if it's not getting the rest it needs and it's constantly getting hit, like even as you said, like if it's kind of like a fracture and he's getting tapped in the stick and it's going up his hand and it's like, okay, whatever, and he can't do what he can do, it's like, what do you do, right? Like he's still a high priced player on a team that he needs to be contributing and he wants to earn his pay, you'd hope, and it looked like he was wanting to do that. And it's just it sucks to see that that's kind of where it ended up, where it's like whatever it was, whether it be medical staff mistake, he pushing himself too hard, a combination of two, management involved, tinkering, whatever it was, like it just sucks to see a player be removed and then players going, this should never have happened, because then
Yeah.
trust is crumbling in the dressing room.
Well, and like Hughes isn't one to speak out. He's not a JT Miller or I'm trying to think of someone, a Matt Dumba, who will say things that's on his mind to make a point to his
Exactly.
team. For Hughes to have to say something or want to say something, or maybe he didn't even mean to say it, it just was the first thing that came out of his mouth.
yeah,
What, like, that shows a guy who's signed here relatively long term, I believe another 5 years, 6 years, 5 years.
looked at it.
How much faith does he have in the not say Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin, but the actual structure of the medical staff and maybe you know what I mean? Like if he's questioning everything, why couldn't he be questioning, or if he's questioning the medical team, why can't he be questioning everything else?
yeah. It's 4 years after this year.
4 years after
just
this year.
on Twin Hughes. That being said, that's totally fair. Like when you have your star players, like no disrespect to somebody like some fourth line grinder that's out there grinding away. If it comes from them, I think it's less of a story. Like when Quinn Hughes is coming out, he's signed long term with your team. He's your number one D man, and he's going to be your number one D man until he leaves or retires. And obviously the last couple of years maybe not, but like he's going to be your number one D man for a long time. And if he's openly speaking out against your medical staff, and there's a lot of cases in the past where like this has happened, and then like we were just talking about with Bester, you look back at the injuries and when he comes back, and he came back and then his wound opened up at the beginning of this year and he had to take more time off. Like it's a lot of these situations, and some onus has to fall onto the players, but depending on the severity of it, you have to, like, your medical staff has to pull, has to be able to have the capability to pull players and just tell players no. Even as much as you want. Like my big one that I think about anytime I think about this, and this falls into the NFL, so it's not
I was just
not a
thinking
huge
that too.
topic. Is it Robert Griffin III?
That or Tua this year.
Yeah.
With the
God,
back-to-back
yeah.
concussions. I'm not gonna lie, being like a ex-trainer and watching that first hit and knowing he came back a week later, I was like, what are they doing? And then he got another concussion. I was like, I saw this coming. Like I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is the fans watching. Like I don't watch the NFL all that much. I keep trying to get into it, but it's hard because the hockey season is started. That's what I'm going to be watching. But he got hit. They called it a back injury.
Yeah,
The
already
medical staff called it
misdiagnosed.
a back injury, not a neck or spine or a concussion.
Concussion. Yeah.
How? Sorry, in what world can the NFL or the NFLPA or any association step in and be like, no? Mm-mm.
The most powerful sports league in the world. Let's honestly, the way that they are run, it is more of a
Yeah.
business than a league. And
Oh,
Nonprofit
they've said,
organization.
they have so many checks and balances, and to hear after the investigation of the independent neurologist allowed him to go back in the game, and then he's kind of like, well, whatever, it just, again, I'm paraphrasing, but it very much seemed like a well, whatever. And it's I remember, again, in my university years, if I had an independent doctor in the stands, this is the big thing, because concussions are always a big deal, because obviously we're learning more and more of the long-term effects of CTE and brain injuries in contact sports. But I remember I had a doctor for a study. He quite literally was telling me every hit almost was a pull the player out of the game. And I'm like, if you do this, I understand be safe, and we're doing this for a study, but it very much was any sort of high impact that didn't really even involve the head, more just two guys body checking really hard. He's pull the player out of the game. And I had one of my doctors say, that's a hockey hit. I'm sorry, it's not a head on head hit. And it's you can't, if you do that, you will pull every player from the team, because everyone will get in a collision like that at some point.
There won't.
And then some of them, they were legit. And it's I will never forget when I had to test a player literally 5 minutes after a pretty big hit. One of the players on the bench, I'm doing the memory test, and he's like, I'm not concussed. I can't even do this. And the other dude, he was a very smart dude wanting to be a doctor, quick, he was quick. 5 minutes during the intermission, the doctor went and double checked him. His brain turned to goo. So 5 minutes of adrenaline gone, he couldn't remember anything. And it's the same sort of thing with athletes. It's you see a big hit in the NFL. Maybe Tua, they tested him right away, and his adrenaline was still pumping and he seemed okay. But later on in the day, it's or not even 5-10 minutes later, maybe he wasn't the person he needed to be. And throughout the week, they should have monitored it. But it's just the same sort of thing with hockey hits and injuries. It's they need to have that sort of medical, pull the player out from an injury, or a big hit, because it can be kind of obvious when a guy goes back in the game and he's not right, and he's not who he needs to be. And that's a danger to himself and others, right? So why would we put them in those positions?
Well, and talking about some injured players, moving on to the latest one who just started skating again, Thatcher Demko. He's supposed to be out 6 weeks. It's now been almost 10, and he's just starting to get back on the ice with the team. But there's also a little bit of fires, a little bit of rumors from not just some idiot on the internet who has a podcast. This is Sportsnet Elliot Friedman and Farhan Lalji on the Vancast. I'm going to quote exactly what Farhan said. I've heard from people that are close to it that Demko doesn't want to be there. There's conversation in the background that Demko isn't enamored with the market, the scrutiny, the organization. Pick it. It's all of it.
Now, is that something more so to this not success of the team, or is it truly what he feels?
I believe. Now, again, this isn't my reporting. This is people who are close. We have sources inside the team speak with the players on a daily basis or monthly basis, weekly basis, whatever it is. To me, I think Demko is a great goalie.
Oh, yes.
I think we'd be absolutely insane to trade him away unless he wanted out. The fact that Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin's plan is to turn this team around in 3 years. That's what they said there. 3 years is a long time. That's what they said in the press conference.
Doesn't Benning say the same thing?
Yeah. Well, the big thing is, okay, so we'll get into that after. No, we'll get into that after.
Yep.
What would it take for you guys to be happy with a Demko trade? That's kind of what I want to get at here.
You need a number one goalie back easily. That's it. Like, no joke. Like, he is a top 10 goalie when healthy, in my personal opinion. Could be higher. Like, I think of him as like a Connor Hellebuck of a few years ago, where he was definitely like a player that everyone saw being really well. He'd had really good game showings, but like the team was still developing around him. Unfortunately, we can't say that about the Canucks, but he's still like, he can steal games. Like, watching him develop from his years past, it's like he definitely is a game stealer. And when you have that, it's really hard to find it, and you'd never want to let it go. But we are notoriously well known to be a goalie graveyard. And so hearing that from him doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah, the thing that worries me is about Demko is the more I watch Spencer Martin, Connor Delia play, and the know that that we traded away our other AHL goalie at the beginning of this year to Boston makes me concerned about our goalie future. Now, you're not going to trade a number one for a number one, you're just not going to, like, as much as I would like to, like, you're not going to trade Thatcher Demko for a guy that's going to be a number one. The only situation something like that would come up is like a goalie goes down, they're done for the year, and maybe they try and get Demko, right? And but you're probably not going to trade that goalie unless he's going to become a UFA. And it's just like, it's so unlikely. But I think you need to get more than what you got from Bo Horvat, because there are, like, Bo Horvat, I love Bo. He's not a top 5 center in the league when he's at his best. He's not. He's a great penalty killer. He's one of the best faceoff men in the league. Mm-hmm. But I can list 5 centermen right now that I would take over Bo. When Demko was playing his best, he was a Vezina candidate, which means he's a top 3 goalie in the league. So you got to get more than what you got for him. You need to get a guy who can slot into your roster. Like, if you're trading Demko, you need a really high draft pick, maybe 2. You need a right-handed defenseman. Like, you basically need to check all of these boxes off. And, like, I don't know, somebody who can kill penalties, because it doesn't matter how good Demko is. When he comes back and he's healthy, if you have the 32nd ranked penalty kill in the league, and guys that just don't want to be on the penalty kill, you're not going to kill penalties, and you're not going to win games.
Again, with the worst penalty kill. Like, just another year of this.
We're going to break a record, though. We're going to have the worst penalty kill in the NHL since they kept track of it.
Oh, yeah.
We're so
beautiful.
Good.
What a great record. Like, let's just break all the records.
Right. So so we all know Ian Clark is the goalie whisperer. I don't care.
Yeah.
He is. If he says something, he's good, right? So if he says, you know what, Demko doesn't want to be here, he's not in the right mindset, trade him. Artur Silovs has been our AHL goalie. 33 games played this year, 2.60 goals against average, 19 wins, 9 losses, 4, I assume, overtime losses. Mm-hmm. A save percentage of .901. Just for reference, the last full year Demko played. The last full year Demko played in the AHL. He had a save percentage of .922 and 2.44 goals against average. Ian Clark says, "You know what, Artur's, it's your time." And we get a young, right shot, defensive defenseman, a defensive prospect, and a first-round pick in 2023 unprotected from
LA.
I know I don't see LA. Ooh, LA might need it. I'm thinking Edmonton.
They're living on Skinner, though.
Goalie Skinner goes down.
Campbell. You paid him all the money.
Inconsistent.
Better.
So you get those 3 assets, and you get Campbell back.
They'd have to eat some of his salary, that's for sure. Like, that's the kind of thing like that we don't have the cap space to accommodate that. But
how much is he getting paid? Is he not
like $5 million for 5 years?
5.5. He signed the same contract Thatcher Demko did, but Demko signed it a year earlier.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be.
But either way,
we wouldn't be out any money.
But this is the crazy thing. You say something like that. Why send it to Edmonton? Because then you're gonna have to face him for the next however many years. It's like you don't want to trade within
because
division.
So
I think
no, but
other
I
than
mean,
really
LA,
we really like going to Alberta to face our old goalies, though.
Oh
That's
my God.
kind of
Well,
our
that-
thing.
Or
that
our
I
old
think would be
players for that
fantastic.
matter. Oh, good lord! Just
I mean,
started on
Florida used to be the
Calgary
retirement
Canucks.
home.
Yeah,
Then LA did for a little bit, and now apparently Alberta is. So,
but either way, any
I just
team,
think-
I understand what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
like as DJ was saying, like you need to get like a plethora of assets because he is worth more. Because this is the other thing, like it's especially with the NFL, but it's showing up in the NHL. Like prospects are crapshoots, draft picks are gambles. When you have a sure thing, he's worth the king's ransom. And Demko is a sure thing. Like he is a top notch, as DJ was saying, like Vezina quality goalie, top 5, top 3 in the league when he's healthy and on his game. Like you cannot give that away. Like Bo is definitely having a career year, and I understand if the market wasn't like the best to get him for what he's worth. But again, having like your leader gone is like the intangible that kind of sucked that only in Vancouver would you really notice that. But for Demko, it has to be like, as you say, it has to check all the boxes. It has to be basically your wish list of a retool. Like, as you say, right-handed defenseman, some sort of power play or penalty kill specialist, some assets to go, and a draft pick, and then maybe more. Because why would you not get as much as you could for one of the better goalies in the league? So, oh, it hurts me to think about it and talk about it because I've watching him like develop into what he is. It was like the Schneider Luongo days where it's like we had 2 amazing goalies. Which one do we keep? And then it's just like we burned that into half. Like, oh my God.
But did we? Because I mean, we got rid of Schneider at an all-time high. We turned Schneider into Bo Horvat, who we just turned into
Well, we don't know yet.
Atu. I
Beauvillier.
don't know. Is it Atu Ratu or is it Atu Rati? Because I keep getting multiple people saying different things.
I want to say it's pronounced Ratu, but I
thought it was
also-
pronounced
'cause
Ratu. So
it looks like
But, like-
Rati, but it's Ratu.
They call him
So-
the rat. I saw. So
that's amazing. But if you look at like that trade tree, which I'm pretty sure stems from the original Luongo trade, all
Yeah.
pieces are still involved with. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it does. Or it's either that one. I watched them, a lot of them from Steve Dangle. It's either the original Luongo trade or the Daniel and Henrik draft trade
Yeah.
that it's still a part of. But we turned Schneider into a number 9 pick overall,
Mhm.
yeah,
Something like that.
number
Yeah.
9 overall.
and then we traded that pick, which turned into Bo Horvat, who's a hell of a player. We got 6 seasons out of, and then we
Mhm.
turned that player into another first round pick, a middling, I would say a middling to top end prospect, and a cap dump. Let's be honest, that's what
Yeah.
Villiers is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think they sold high on Schneider. I think I'm the only one of the very few people who views it that way, because where he went as soon as he left Ian Clark, what happened?
Yes, and
I-
that's the only way you could look at it, right?
I watched a documentary. I think it was around the Hockey Hall of Fame, or I was listening to a story or something. It was around the Hockey Hall of Fame this past year when the Sedins and Luongo were going in, and they were talking about it, and they were saying that Schneider had kind of become the number 1 goalie that year before he got traded, and then he missed the end of the year because he had a hip injury, and they were really, really scared about that hip injury, and that's why when they got the offer for that trade, they were like, "Yeah, we got to take this." So I know Luongo's angry, but like they were so scared of Schneider moving forward that they had to get rid of him, and
turns
it
out to
was
be a
the
good
right
call.
time.
So I didn't realize
Yeah.
Lou Lamoriello, who now has Bo Horvat, made the trade. They came to Vancouver with the trade.
Mhm.
Interesting. Well,
Needed a top-notch goalie.
They were kind of throwing everybody out there, and then somebody bid on Schneider,
Someone was
and they
like-
were like, "Oh,
interesting.
let's get him
We'll
out of
take it."
here." So,
Well, fair. Well, I think that kind of does it for the Canucks talk of this show. So, I have a moment right now. Again, if you are watching, I love you and appreciate you. Please do leave a like, a comment. If you're listening to this recorded, I still appreciate you just as much. Review, share with your friends if you are a Canucks fan and your friends are Canucks fans. If they're not Canucks or BC Lions fans, don't bother. They're not going to get much out of this unless they like me, and then they might get something out of it.
That beautiful hair.
But there has been some beautiful movement in the beautiful summer game with the BC Lions. The BC Lions extended Vernon Adams Jr. for 1 year extra, so he will be, for all intents and purposes, our number one starting quarterback for this year and next year. So his contract will end at the end of the 2024 season. Butler has left. He is signed in Hamilton, which is, I think, going to be a problem because I don't think we have a running back to fill that hole. However, just yesterday, I was reading the BC Lions traded a linebacker named Jordan Williams to Toronto in exchange for the first-round pick. Now, we had previously last week talked about how there was no first-round pick for the BC Lions. There are some running back prospects in that 7 to 10 spot that the Lions are going to be picking in. They're going to be picking it at 9th overall. With all this information, with why do I keep saying Bo Burnham? Brian Burnham. He's not a comedian. He is a football player. Brian Burnham retiring. We still have a gluttony of talent at wide receiver. We have a quarterback who, if can live up to the potential that he has shown, should be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect out of the BC Lions?
Honestly, after last year, I hate to say it, they definitely outperformed expectations for me personally. A lot of that had to do with Nathan Rourke, but
100%.
as he went down, like the team was trying to find an identity without him, and yeah, they struggled here and there, but they still got some wins. They still toughed it out. They made it into the playoffs, and like they were one of those teams that you knew that if they like could put it together at the end with like the change to quarterback, that they would be kind of a little bit scary, maybe a dark horse. And yeah, it didn't pan out that way because God, Winnipeg was such a beast last year, and they have been for years past, that it's hard to see them fall off. But like I would love to see them to be at least in the playoff hunt at the very least, like just to be a contending team that competes. Because if not, it's like going back to the dark days and the dark ages of kind of like we haven't done much in a while. So
yeah, that's kind of where I am looking at the team right now. Now, let's see if they draft who they draft, or if they're able to find another running back. I'm not going to pretend to sit here and be the most up to date on the CFL prospect pool and what running backs are going to be available in free agency. So that being said, I think when you have somebody like Nathan Rourke, who had an MVP season while missing a handful of games, which doesn't happen very often. Normally, if you miss that many games in such a short season like the CFL, like you can miss 6 games in the NHL and still win MVP. You can't miss 6 games in the CFL or in the NFL and win MVP. It doesn't happen. So is Vernon Adams going to be able to do what Nathan Rourke did? Probably not. Vernon Adams All-Star 2019, kind of his best year, kind of hit and miss since then. But he had pretty good numbers once he came to the Lions. So hopefully a little bit more time with practice squad 1 in training, and maybe he can get some more routine down. Both were good with their legs. Looking it up, Nathan Rourke had way more yards. He ran the ball 39 times this year, averaged 7.8 yards per carry, but Vernon Adams ran the ball 22 times for an average of 7.4 yards per carry. So if he ran just as often, they would have been pretty close.
Exactly. And the big thing with Vernon Adams Jr., I believe, him coming in and this being his team this year, I think he's going to have a different impact on it. It's not going to be a game plan or a team built around Nathan Rourke. Like we got, as Lions fans know, we got extremely lucky with Nathan Rourke, a guy who was back up for a couple years, I think, maybe 2 years. And then came, when given the opportunity, took it and ran, and I will say this, will be the greatest Canadian quarterback in history. Looking at his numbers, looking at the people that I would assume, and I did this with the old man a few days ago, The people that I thought were Canadian quarterbacks are not. They're just Americans who played in the CFL.
That was last week's podcast.
Such as who?
That was last week's podcast.
Well, I missed that one, but who were some of the names you thought were Canadians?
Anthony
I'm just curious.
Calvillo. Anthony Calvillo.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I knew he
Ricky
was-
Ray.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
Trevor. No. Who else did I throw out? I can't remember. I threw out another name.
There was one more name. I don't remember who it was, but
all
I
of them,
remember three
all of
names.
them are American.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you have to go back to Warren Moon.
Yeah, quite literally.
And when he went down, he was a lot older when he went to the NFL to play.
And that's part of his success. He was mature. He'd understood the game. It's like the same with Doug Flutie. Like, even though he was an
Yep.
American, like, he made his hay in the CFL. It showed that he knew how
And
to
then-
run an offense.
And then he took a team to the playoffs and they benched him. They took him to the show. He took him to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. And you know what they did? They benched him. Why? Who the fuck knows?
Because he's Doug Flutie, and the Flutie Flakes were too much for them. But the only thing is, like,
Ahoy.
I like, this is the irony of all of this is I'm an actual Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and I'm probably one of the very few in Canada. But like, for him to go to Jacksonville, he's gonna be behind Trevor Lawrence, so he's not likely to get any starts without a significant injury. However, being behind like a talented, was it quarterback there, and like Doug Peterson has shown that he's starting to bring out the actual talent and skill that everyone thought that he had, which he does have. It's just, don't get me started on the Urban Meyer era, because that was a tire fire from the moment they hired him, and I knew it. But like with Doug Peterson, he might be able to learn something in the NFL. He might advance his skills even more, and then when he comes, if he comes back again, like, we're assuming he comes back, and I really hope he does. But if he stays there, power to him, because that's the better league to be in for money and whatnot, and just clout. But if he ever comes back, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't be surprised if your prediction comes true. He becoming the greatest Canadian quarterback.
Well, and not just that, but okay, he goes down to Jacksonville. He learns for 2 years.
Yeah.
And a team needs a 1B quarterback. Someone who has a bit of NFL experience, but isn't going to cost them a first round pick or a big name player. Well, you've got this guy. He comes in and has a potential, like he did with BC, just to take over the show, which I think would be a lot of fun. And just so you know, Cam, I am officially now a Jacksonville Jaguars fan.
I have another. Yes.
There are now three.
Yes,
Three.
we're multiplying
Canadians.
slowly but surely.
Not me. I'm not the third one, but I've
No.
heard Nathan Rourke's brother was a Jacksonville Jaguar fan.
Yes.
So
He
Very
there's
nice.
three of you.
There's
Beautiful.
a whopping three of us for two reasons. One, because Nathan Rourke is there and I want to follow his career. But two, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, do you know their names?
Shad Khan and Tony
Shad
Khan,
Khan.
you mean?
Yes. And Tony Khan runs a wrestling promotion, and I am a
ECW.
huge wrestling fan. No, he does not run ECW. He runs AEW.
AEW, pardon me. sorry.
ECW, you went back into your 90s there. You teleported back 30 years.
Yep. Childhood right there.
Yeah. So he runs AEW. So another reason to pick the
And
Jacksonville Jaguars.
honestly, the biggest thing, like, I've been a Jags fan since like the late 90s, early 2000s.
I feel sorry for you.
Oh, sorry. Like, Lorna, this is not the time to lament all those years of up and downs, mostly downs.
To
But
be
he's
fair,
like-
you're a Canucks fan. You're a BC sports fan. It makes sense.
Oh yeah, I
It's
just
a
love
trauma
being
bond with our teams.
gluttons for punishment, 100%. My dad always laughed at me because he's a big Seahawks fan. He's like, "Why did you pick them?" And I have my reasons. I don't need to explain them now. Maybe one day, hey, if I'm ever back, I'll fill that in.
I'm gonna make
But-
a note to make sure I push to find out an answer on that.
Yeah, there you go. But like, he's like the first minority owner in the league, and like that was a big deal at the time. And like, I'm not gonna lie, being a fan of the team, he's definitely like an owner that cares a lot about his players. Like, with all of like the Kaepernick kneeling and stuff like that, like back in the day, like he was an owner that was like, I'm with my players. Like, this is a big deal. Like, he's not. I have lots of opinions on how the owners of the NFL run the league, and I'm not very happy with the way that they propose themselves, especially certain ones in particular. But like he was definitely one that like loved like his teammates, his players. They're not employees to him. They're like his family. Like he treats them very well. A lot of the players speak nothing but the highest amount for Shad Khan. And I'm not gonna lie, the mustache, the twirling villain
Oh,
mustache also sells me on it, and it's perfect. And just he's a very well-spoken man too. So it's like just hearing the way that he cares about his players and his team. I love that Nathan went to an organization like that that is definitely on the turn, is becoming a team that could make moves and make headway. Especially, I'm not gonna lie, they should have beat the goddamn Chiefs. They should have been against. I wanted to see Burrow versus Lawrence, LSU versus Clemson rematch. Like that would have been a beautiful thing to see. And kudos to goddamn good old Mahomes, because like I'm not gonna lie, like I've seen enough of Mahomes. It's like Brady all over again. I saw enough of Brady as a Jags fan for so many years, and all power to Mahomes and the Chiefs. But I'm starting to get to see enough of Mahomes, so they better make something and kind of slowly disappear. But they probably won't. So
it's fair.
Yeah. It's actually really nice to see, like you said, Nathan Ward going down there and all that stuff about the owner too. And you can tell it passes down. Like there's the clip that went viral after they lost to the Chiefs of Trevor Lawrence standing in the tunnel and he's greeting every single Jags player that walks by him
Yeah.
and giving them bumps and stuff, right? Like that's the type of guy when you're someone like Nathan Ward that you want to play behind, because if Trevor Lawrence ever goes down or he's not feeling it or whatever, like he's going to be behind Nathan Rourke 100%. He's not like I know like this guy's got to be competitive to make it in the NFL and to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he's not competitive to the point where he's going to be like hoping Rourke does bad so we can get back in there and ready to go. So it'll be good. Hopefully we get to see him at least get a few snaps in this year.
Even just preseason, I would love to see him just get even a half a preseason game.
And he will.
Hopefully.
and well, and just going to step in, like especially if it's in the preseason, if he gets any first team snaps, they might have some good receivers that would be comparable to the BC offense, where like he has some good like route runners and
even
whatnot.
The second team in the NFL has probably got better or on par receivers with the BC.
Sure. Very true. But at the same time, like being in such a high flying offensive attack, the Jags look to have something to that next year. So with Calvin Ridley hopefully becoming like unsuspended and joining the team, like he might have a chance to actually learn with some very talented players, as you were saying, DJ, behind a very talented quarterback that could very much help him develop. And that's very exciting, whether being a Lions fan or just a Canadian QB fan. That seems to be that now that more and more I think of it, I'm very excited for that.
While we're talking about, quarterbacks, the GOAT of quarterbacks, I don't like him. I hate him because he was never on any team that I liked. Tom Brady announced his retirement for a second time.
Does this stick this time?
Yeah, that's the question I was going to ask to you guys. I don't think it is. I think he retires. I think it gets into the first 2 weeks of the season, and I think he's back on a team. I think a quarterback goes down, and someone goes out and offers him way too much money.
Conspiracy theory, they're not allowed to talk to him before March 15th if he was signed. And that, remember, if you guys know that the Dolphins got penalized their first round pick this year for the tampering. So him retiring, I don't know. Like, again, this is just a personal conspiracy. Does he do this to be able to talk to teams early, to be able to find out where he wants to go next? Because a lot of people are speculating him going to San Francisco, his hometown favorite team. Like the big thing I've always loved hearing is he was in the crowd during that Dallas Clark, or not Dallas Clark, the end of Montana in the back of the end zone touchdown. Oh, I can't even remember his name again. It's not Dallas Clark. Dwight Clark? No. Famous NFL tight end. Anybody help me out here?
I'm not sure.
We're looking at people who are not good with names, I don't think.
And it's sad. I feel really bad because he's just passed away due to ALS. Or again, I say that. But either way, he's passed away recently. He's definitely, like, he was in the crowd for like a very famous San Francisco versus Dallas touchdown. And so like him being a big 49ers fan, love to see him come back. But as much as I've hated Tom Brady when he was a a New England Patriot for all those years. He crushed any Peyton Manning dreams because I loved Peyton Manning because the sheriff. I'm not gonna lie, for years I've loved the sheriff. Seeing him on SNL, if you ever remember that skit of him teaching the United Way kids and like throwing kids at. If Jake, if you haven't seen it, you need to look it up on
No, I don't
YouTube.
think I
Just him
have.
like I'm gonna
It's
send it to
good.
you. It's like
It's
most
good.
hilarious thing. It's like Manning being like the worst coach in the world, but it's just his like you can tell his comedic timing, especially with the
Oh
Manning
yeah.
cast. Amazing popular player, and seeing not him, basically never seeing him win the 3, 4, 5 Super Bowls he could have because of Tom Brady or because of the teams that he was against, like always made me sad. But I cannot deny, like years, like having him removed from New England, he cannot deny his success.
Oh
Like the moment he goes to like Tampa and they win, it's like, and New England has floundered since. It's like it shows the
Yeah.
Belichick is keeping them like he's keeping them alive. Like New England is nothing without Brady, but he's still keeping them good. But Brady can go to any team and just turn it around. It's like you can't deny his like talent, his leadership, like like you love to do it, the let's effing go like thing. Like who wouldn't want to get behind a guy like that and just
Yeah.
if he goes to the booth, which he's signed to do, like I could see him being like a Tony Romo, very charismatic, very well spoken, break down plays. Like he's just that intelligent and like that successful. Like why wouldn't you want him to be
oh
contributing to the game, right? So whether he's in it or not, he will always be a part of like the
well, because
success of football.
if he doesn't play, I believe he has a standing contract with Fox.
Yeah.
A
So no
mega
matter
contract.
what,
Yeah.
no matter
That's
what, we're
going
going
to
to
pay
see
him
him.
way more than he'll make playing football again.
Yeah.
Well, they also said the speculation for him coming back this year was because of his divorce. It's like he didn't want to give her any of the money. So if he played another year, the divorce would be finalized, and now he gets the contract and doesn't have to give her anything. So I think that was another again
That's a smart.
speculation.
That's a smart.
It's a
That's a
business
smart
move. That's a
conspiracy
money
theory.
move.
That's
That
a
is money.
business decision.
Yeah.
Speaking
Right.
of business decisions, millions of dollars will be spent this weekend on the Super Bowl in beautiful, sunny Phoenix. I don't think it's actually in Phoenix proper. I believe it's in Scottsdale.
Yeah, I believe so.
But you know, Americans have one big city and a million other cities around it, and they all combine. It's confusing, and I don't like it.
You mean like Vancouver?
Yeah, I don't like it. I hate it. That's why I'm in Calgary. We've got at least a little bit of space between places. There's room to breathe, damn it. We've got a lot of space in this country. But moving on. Super Bowl predictions, boys. We have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in what should be a super fucking fun game.
Should be. I know Cam said he's seen enough of Mahomes, but I gotta think that at the end of this game, you're gonna be seeing Mahomes lift another Lombardi trophy. I just maybe it's just I'll be honest with you. I got a thing with Philly sports teams. I don't know what it is, but I like to see them lose. So I'm gonna be pretty happy if I can see the Chiefs lifting the trophy up at the end of this Sunday, and I think they got the team to do it.
Fair.
So this is the best part about like I'm kind of thinking the same thing. Mahomes is going to do it. However, I have been watching a lot of coverage of the NFL, like not in this past week, but weeks past. So the first week after the championship games, they were saying like this has happened before, where you have a superstar quarterback versus the number one pass defense in the league. The last 4 times it's happened, the pass defense has won. So it's very much I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see Philly win it again because part of it is just to see the Jalen Hurts ascension because of the fact that like they're not gonna win based off defense alone. Their offense has to like show up. They have literally 3 running backs who all could be like amazing running backs in different situations, and they're all really good. Jalen Hurts adds to that. AJ Brown and what was it, the other young receiver on the outside, like they have both of them to be able to like go vertically, and I see them kind of basically taking over the game with defense. So they're as long as their offense can score. But at the end of the day, like everyone had been talking for Kansas City, like Frank Clark hadn't shown up in a playoff game. Like he'd never gotten a sack in his career. And he's a very decorated NFL pass rusher. And last week he got 2 or 3. So it's like amazing to see him potentially become a game wrecker because in that end he could literally turn this on its head and we just get a defensive matchup that becomes back and forth, like just The offense can't really do much, and then they maybe can break a big play here or there, which is going to be very boring to see for the fans. But at the same time, it could be the other way where it's like the defenses do their best, and both of these quarterbacks can just dink and dunk and pick teams apart. So I'm assuming it's going to be a low-scoring match that Philly wins. But if it's not, and Kansas City can run away with it, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm honestly picking Philly just simply because I think defense is going to win championship. Defense wins championship. That's the ever-standing the philosophy, and I think that is going to hold pat this time.
That is totally fair. I am under the belief that the only way the Eagles can win is they have to stop Kelsey. They have to stop him. They have to shut him down.
Triple team.
If you can't do that because there are other threats on this.
Yes, but they might have to.
Yeah, it's. I need to. I think my friends down in Philadelphia and area might fly up here and beat me up if I vote against them now, because I have chosen them and they're the only team multiple weeks where I had multiple selections where they won. So I'm going Eagles. I'm going
Fly Eagles fly, baby. Fly Eagles fly.
Just don't tell them where I live, because I think they're already trying to book tickets to my place. So
one last thing. The over-under for this game is at 50.5 points, which I think is
That's generous.
Very high.
Yeah.
I see this being like a 21-17 kind of game, like very low scoring. If anybody does score a touchdown, it's going to be on a bomb or like a missed tackle or something like that, like a big play.
Yeah.
I
would take the under on that every time.
I'm taking the under every time with that, unfortunately. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for coming on. We have our predictions for the Super Bowl. Next week, hopefully, the old man will be back. I don't know where he's at today, but hopefully he'll be back and we can have arguments about what the Canucks are doing, seeing as they just won tonight.
What? We won a game? What?
6-5. PD scored 2 goals. Brock Besser scored a goal. Nils Ullmann scored a goal. OEL scored a goal before we even got online.
That's our
and
boy.
one Anthony Beauvillier scored a goal against his former team.
Oh,
So
is that his first as a Canuck?
That is his first as a Canuck. Both former players scored on the opposing goalies, so all is fair in the world. We got 2 points out of a game, and I don't know how that's possible, but it is what it is. So
we're really tanking hard. We're tanking so
dream
hard.
is over.
So hard,
unfortunately. But again, thank you guys for joining. I will see you guys later. Everyone watching, listening, thank you so much. Please, again, like, subscribe, do whatever you like. Comment on us. We're on Facebook, Twitter. The only thing we're basically not on is Instagram and TikTok because that shit's confusing. But I love you guys, and I will see you next Thursday.
Thank you for having us. Good night.
Thanks for having us. Goodbye.